Hi everyone. So the winter has finally arrived in the Northeast, and I thought that this would be a great opportunity to take you around the yard and show you what I think to be one of the most important things you can consider when you're planning your landscaping, and that's the addition of winter interest. You look at your evergreens as the bones of your garden. So, most people, when they're starting a new garden, they're just considering their perennials. And perennials are an amazing plant. You make the investment once, and then they come back and bloom for you year after year. But at the end of the season, when those perennials are done blooming, they're going to die down to the ground, they're going to go dormant for the winter, and then they'll return next year. But what happens in the time that they go dormant before they return? There's nothing going on if you don't have evergreens to look at. So when you're planting your gardens, it's really important to incorporate those evergreens so that even when your perennials do go dormant, you still have a garden and things to look at. So let's go ahead and take a walk in my yard, and I'll show you some things that I have planted that provide a lot of interest over these winter months. Here I have a patio bed, and this bed was lacking some winter interest. So this summer I added this blue evergreen shrub that's going to grow in a pyramid shape. But even just leaving some of your shrubs up for the winter and not cutting them back until spring gives a place for snow to land and to provide some interest. This is what you call a borrowed view when it comes to landscaping. These are my neighbor's green giant arborvitaes, and they look so beautiful. They've gotten so large over the last few years, and they line the property between our yard and their yard, and the snow looks so pretty on them. Here I have a yellow mop or gold cypress mop, and again, the snow looks absolutely beautiful on it. And a Japanese maple that even when it's bare, the branch structure provides so much to look at. Another thing to consider over the winter is having some shrubs or evergreens planted in pots. So even when you don't have annuals in them, you still have something pretty to look at in the winter months. In this bed here, I have a blue star juniper as well as a weeping blue spruce. I added this weeping blue spruce last fall in place of a weeping cherry tree that only looked nice for a couple of weeks in the spring. So now this tree will provide winter-round interest in this garden bed. In addition to the weeping blue spruce, I also added this yellow evergreen tree that will grow very slowly since it's a dwarf variety. And so we'll have at least 3 opportunities to provide winter interest in just this bed. Heading up my main walkway bed, this was the first bed that we worked on when we moved into this home, and this was a new construction with no landscaping, so we started from the ground up. And the very first thing that I added was this Hinoki cypress. It's a green Hinoki cypress. They're also available in gold, and it's my favorite in this bed. The reason for that is because I love how graceful it is and how arching the branches are. It just has a very beautiful, like, free form. And the snow lands on it so nicely. I have another golden mop here. This one has been here since we designed this bed, and I actually limbed it up because these get quite woody in between, and so I made it almost like a small topiary type tree. Even things like arbors and trellises will provide interest in the winter when everything else is gone to sleep. This shrub in the back here I used to have in some pots until it got too big, and now they provide beautiful interest against the house. I love the way that the branches arch upward. The color on this shrub is also different than my other yellow evergreens because it turns like a bronze color in the winter. Have this evergreen here also, which was formed into a topiary shape, which every year in the spring I used some pruning shears to get back its shape. I love this one. It's like also like a blue color. I forget the name of it, but it might be some kind of juniper. I love when you have exposed branches because it just adds even another layer of interest. The pair to the other shrub that I had on the other side. So I have two of these, one on either side of this bump out on the house. And then in the corner, I have a weeping blue Atlas cedar that has gotten pretty big and needs some trimming. So we'll work on that this spring. These wintergreen containers that we put out around the holidays, these were made the first week of December, and they're still looking so nice. And provide something else to look at until spring arrives. In this corner, I have a Norway spruce, and this thing was a little baby, maybe only about that tall, maybe 2 feet or so when we purchased it 4 or 5 years ago, and it's grown so much. And I always try to find the central leader and stake it so that I can continue to gain some height on it. And I think that's about where I'm going to want it, and then I'll let it start weeping downward, which is actually its natural habit. Here I have another blue star juniper and another weeping blue Atlas cedar and this beautiful Colorado blue spruce that has really gotten large. Last spring I added this Nana Lutea, which is a dwarf. It's almost like a type of Hinoki, and I think it'll look really striking against the blue evergreen in the background and this light greenish gray color of the Atlas cedar. Here I have an old gold juniper, and the branches on this one are so interesting because they are arching, which is really pretty. I also have a Yugo pine. I love Yugo pines. And a gray owl juniper in a blue color. This is the foundation side of the house, and I have down there some rhododendron that have already put up their buds and will be blooming this spring. Even the veggie garden looks pretty under a blanket of snow. The fence around it provides something to look at. And I have an evergreen that I added here as well this fall that will look beautiful as it gets taller. I have here another Hinoki cypress, which is similar to the one I have in my front bed that I love so much, but unfortunately it was a baby and the deer kept munching on it. So here's a tip: if you have something that's small enough to fit in one of these mesh laundry bags, this can offer some protection from the deer grazing in the winter months. So luckily this was small enough, so I did go ahead and put this mesh laundry bag that I got at the Dollar Tree, and it's offering a little bit of a barrier for this shrub this winter. In this back bed here, I have some trees, and even the trees, just the branches. I have this Japanese maple bihu that has this beautiful yellow bark that stands out against everything behind it. And then some Japanese pyrus or japonica. are also beautiful shrubs for winter interest. Some more bare Japanese maples. And because I wanted winter interest in this new garden area, I did start adding some evergreens. So this is a yellow PC spruce. Let's make sure that that's right. A golden oriental spruce. Yep. I love weeping trees. And in addition to that, I also have another weeping blue spruce. This was my Mother's Day gift last year. I love plant gifts because when you look at them, you always remember the occasion. And the third evergreen I added in this Japanese garden area, that's a newer area for us, is this golden Duchess hemlock that grows wider than tall, and it's also a very pretty yellow color. I don't currently have these benches placed anywhere out in the garden. I just kind of set them aside for the winter. But had these been out in a garden space, this would be another way, in addition to trellises and structures, that you could bring some interest into your garden in winter. This is my Katsura Japanese maple. Has beautiful red branching that stands out against the snow. Even just leaving the heads on your hydrangeas and not cutting back grasses can offer something to look at when nothing else is blooming. So here I have my limelights that I just left the heads on for the winter. I really like the way that they look. And my hemlin grass that I also just left up. That provides some texture. My window boxes that I also filled with some evergreen cuttings for the holidays, still looking nice and fresh. These are all things that in the winter, when we're so desperately wanting to get outside, it gives us a way to have things to look at when we take a walk around our yard, even when it's not summer and there aren't flowers out to look at. So here are some more grasses and a hydrangea. That is a quick fire. Another trellis. And our magnolia that is already full of buds and waiting for the spring to burst open with blooms. This tree has the most beautiful white blooms, and they're so fragrant that you can't miss the scent when you walk by. Even having hardscaping like this, like a brick wall or retaining walls, this stone seating wall, or even just patios, all offer a lot to look at in the winter. So I just wanted to make this quick video to show you that even in the winter months when nothing's in bloom, there's still plenty of pretty things to look at. And if you consider adding evergreens anytime that you plan a new garden space, you can ensure that there'll always be structure and winter interest. Have a good day. Take care.